Hey guys, it's Cory from CoryBakerFilmmaker.com, and I just saw Isle of Dogs, directed by Wes Anderson and written by Wes Anderson, Roman Coppola, Jason Schwartzman, and Kunichi Nomura. First things first, let's lead it off with the big deal. I saw this movie at Regal LA Live for the 10th time, and that means featurette.
As vaudeville moved to talkies, downtown Los Angeles became the early epicenter of the movie palace. There were many stage theaters on Broadway in 1920s Los Angeles that converted to show films to serve the area's 500,000 residents. When Sid Grauman's first Los Angeles theater opened in 1918, he brought with it the new tradition of the film premiere. Over the next 30 years, many other theaters up and down Broadway would throw premiere events from the United Artists and Warner Theaters. Before United States v. Paramount, many of the majestic theaters in downtown were the best places to go catch the largest variety of films. But then the industry changed, forced by legislation and court decision. More importantly, the city changed. Where downtown had once been the heart of the city, the middle decades of the 20th century saw Los Angeles, with its growing freeway system, turn into a sprawling metropolis. People left downtown for the suburbs, places that would later be swallowed up by the expanding city. As downtown declined, so did the theater district. No longer the home of the film premiere, having been replaced by the bigger themed theaters of Hollywood and Westwood. Many movie palaces closed their doors and later became churches or simply opened their lobbies to various stores. The last 40 years have been incredibly transformative to the skyline of downtown LA. The city has seen the largest period of urbanization in the United States. A city that used to have strict height restrictions on the buildings started reaching for the blue California sky. With this new era of downtown came LA Live. What started with the Staples Center grew into a 27-acre mixed-use site with restaurants, hotels, office buildings, condos, and a brand new theater. Opened in 2009, the Regal LA Live became the West Coast flagship theater of Regal Cinemas. It also has been designated as the Barco Innovation Center, as all 14 screens employ the latest in Barco's laser projection system technology. It brought back the state-of-the-art Premier Cinema House, with 20-plus premieres a year in its 806-seat Balcony Theater 1. It is also home, inside Theater 6, to the first 4DX theater in the country, where seats move to the action on screen and special effects like wind, fog, mist, rain, and scents give a transcendent cinema experience unlike anything else. 3,772 seats over 14 screens. The Regal LA Live brings downtown back to the same level it was 100 years beforehand.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. For people who are new to this is the first time I've ever done one of the featurettes. Anytime I reach 10 visits to any particular theater, I'm going to do one, and I hope you enjoy it. Please let people know. I'm going to share it on Facebook separately of everything, so tell me if you want me to go to more theaters. On to Isle of Dogs. The story starts with a little bit of background. There had been many problems between the Kobayashi family and dogs, where dogs were seen as villains, and there was animosity between the family and the dogs. But over time, dogs had become man's best friend, everything was sorted out. Fast forward 20 years in the future, Megasaki City is overrun by dog flu, or snout fever, however you want to call it, and there is an exile of all the dogs to Trash Island. This includes Atari, who is the nephew of the mayor, whose dog Spots is sent to Trash Island, one of the first dogs sent out to Trash Island, and he must go to save his beloved dog, despite sort of the growing animosity between the city and the dogs. Right up front, I love Wes Anderson. I enjoy all of his films so much. The only one that I really think that I hadn't seen was Fantastic Mr. Fox, which now I'm obviously going to have to go back on because I didn't ever give the stop motion, I guess, the chance that I should have given it. Even though I love stop motion, it was a blind spot for sure. I missed it. But Isle of Dogs I found fantastic. There is just an incredible amount of talent, voice talent in this, between Cranston and Norton and Bob Balaban and Bill Murray and Jeff Goldblum. We can keep going through. The entire thing is just loaded to the gills with stars. And not just stars, but people who like do incredible work. Like, I love F. Murray Abraham. He's a very specific type of thing, but he does a fantastic job as one of the voices of Jupiter in this. And I can't speak highly enough of the actual talent that was assembled, but for a Wes Anderson flick, it's a lot of the usual suspects, and all of them bring it. It's an incredible collection of talent. Another thing I really wanted to talk about up front was Alexander Desplat's music throughout this. I thought so much of what made this film work was the music, and coming off of Shape of Water to get into this is just a fantastic job. I loved all the Japanese imagery and all the ways that they made it work within this story. I know there's a lot of people who are complaining about the use of Japanese imagery to tell the story, but I honestly didn't find it that bad. I know that people who have Asian backgrounds are more suitable to discuss the feelings associated with this, but for me, it didn't feel as bad as there seems to be criticism of it. So, for instance, I mean, like, the first thing I thought of when I was watching this story was talking about Japanese internment camps in America post or during World War II, when World War II became more of Japan and the United States post Pearl Harbor. And I think that there was sort of a lot of feelings that I got where people are blaming the dogs, even though the dogs didn't do anything, and that there were ways to work around the problems, but nobody wanted to deal with it. I mean, early on in the movie, Professor Watanabe says, "We're so close to the cure for all the dog flu, the snout fever, the whole thing. We're so close. We can keep it from spreading. We can make it happen." But they still decide to exile the dogs, regardless of the fact that there is a chance to solve this issue. With the stop motion, with the dogs, with the Kurosawa influences, it fits so well in a story that is about acceptance and about, learning to get through things together as opposed to isolating our problems. And one of the things that I enjoyed the most about how this was all pulled together was that Japanese characters spoke in Japanese, and there were no subtitles. It was all mise en scene, essentially. You could tell what these characters were saying based off of how it was playing off on screen. And every once in a while, yes, there was the translator. Frances McDormand plays an interpreter, and it helps sort of rough out the edges a little bit of what could be long dialogue portions that you wouldn't be able to get the ins and outs of. But even when she's interpreting, she doesn't just strictly say what's being said, but she also has commentary on it itself, which I think adds on. And one of the first things that happens, like before the movie even starts, is they have a title card. By the way, all the title cards in Japanese with English as like sort of the secondary script. But early on they say dog barks have been translated into English, which I think is a really funny little way of getting around the fact that we're going to hear all these dogs speak in English. And I mean, frankly, movies in English sort of travel the world better than any other language. And Japanese being spoken in this movie isn't a detriment to anyone who doesn't speak that Japanese. And it's sort of, and it makes you feel more, even though you can't speak the language, you feel more in tune with the people who do, even though you don't know what they're saying, because you are connecting with them on a human level, so to speak. I think in talking about a lot of people's complaints about this movie, the only thing that I fully acknowledge and sort of would like to have seen different was the character of Tracy, voiced by Greta Gerwig. I mean, it was a perfectly fine character. It just seemed like we didn't need the American girl, like the white blonde, actually kind of racially ambiguous, but freckled American girl to be the one who saves us all. I mean, I especially with the amount of struggle that the character of Atari goes through to go to the island, to save his dog Spots, to help the dogs that are stuck on trash islands, to bring them back to Japan, do battle with his uncle, the mayor, Kobayashi. It just feels like Tracy's character wasn't necessarily the one we needed. I probably, if I were in the room with Wes Anderson, Roman Coppola, and Jason Schwartzman, and Kunichi Nomura, would have suggested that maybe Professor Watanabe have more of a part in bridging that gap and bringing the dogs back, as opposed to Tracy's character. But I mean, at the end of the day, I wasn't really that worried about it. More than anything, I would say that if you enjoy stop motion, you'll want to go see this movie. If you enjoy Wes Anderson, you're going to want to see this movie. If you have dogs or like dogs, then you are going to want to see this movie. I love dogs. I love dogs. I love dogs. Enjoy it for what it is. I was telling my girlfriend Rachel about Kurosawa and all the influences of Kurosawa in this film. And she didn't know who Kurosawa was, which is obviously a personal failing on my part. But I'm showing her, like, you know, the trailer from Seven Samurai, and I'm sort of explaining, like, who he is and what the importance is. But there's things that are, like, much like all of Wes Anderson's films, there's a baseline appreciation you can have it just from the visual aesthetic, just from the style in which he portrays things. And anytime that you know a little bit more than the average viewer, it's like an appreciation of, like, wine. You can go buy some Woodbridge for $12 and just get drunk. Or if you really know what fine wine is like, if you really know where you can get a great low-key bottle of wine and it has this palate and this flavor profile and everything like that, if you're invested in all the little details, it makes the whole thing way better. So even if you aren't completely familiar with the works of Kurosawa, or even if you're not, I can't remember the name of the artist while I'm talking here, but a famous Japanese picture of the waves. There's things in, like, the way that they show sushi and the way that they work in the drummers with the way the story is told, that just, if you're more worldly on these types of things, if you can understand the touchstones and the points of it, then it makes you feel so much more connected to the work. And I think that it's a real winner. You gotta go check it out. Hey Schmoopy, what's that? It's leaderboard time! We've already discussed this up front. Number 10 on the board for Regal LA Live. We saw the featurette. I hope it was enjoyed by one and all. On to the movie leaderboard. I wouldn't put stop motion at my favorite form of film, but I enjoyed this so much. And it was just so pleasant and so enjoyable. And there's so many talented people who are working together for the one cause here that it's hard for me not to review it glowingly. So I will give it a 8.9, number 1 on the leaderboard currently. And yeah, you got to go check it out. It's not. I feel like a lot of people are. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion, and especially if someone feels slighted, they're allowed to feel that. But I just feel like the work is not meant to be offensive or not meant to be sort of like stealing of culture to make for own benefit. It's just a really nice story. It's a really sweet thing. It's very appealing, and you should definitely go check it out. Anyway, that is it for me. If you want more of me, you can go to my website, CoryBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoryBakerFilm, or follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at LegendCB5. Please, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with people, subscribe to the channel. All those things help sort of move it along and help other people find it. And that is about it for me. I guess it's time to walk the dog and get some sushi.